Right, welcome everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Corporation of Township of Whistler, July 23rd, 2025. And I will start with roll call. Councilor Bailey.
Present.
Councilor Hurst. Present. Councilor Goida.
Present.
Councilor Spose. Present. So this will begin our moment of reflection. Is there more reflection? Spose, do you have a resolution for the agenda?
That council approves the July 23rd, 2025 agenda and addendum as circulated.
Please, Mr. Bailey, Councilor Spose. Questions or comments? All in favor? It's carried. Any disclosure of Canary interest today? Mr. Spose?
Yes, it's with respect to item 7.1, 6.12, 6.13. 7.1 is presentation by MPG Planning Solutions Inc. regarding Whistler Private Design Study results for recommendation. 6.12 delegation by Justin Wilson regarding item 7.1. 6.13 delegation by Emily Elliott regarding item 7.1. I live on Cyril 20. I've previously declared that I have pecuniary interest in the proposed rezoning property Cyril 20. The study area for Whistler by Design study results and recommendations includes all properties on the east side of Cyril 20 from Bunker 34 to Forestell Road, identified as options B for potential development. This requires me to declare a pecuniary interest in any such development that may have an impact on the value of the property. I cannot accordingly participate in discussing this decisions regarding the study or deputations involving options B and C.
Okay, thank you. Disclosure. All right. I believe we will move into delegations and I will just do my standard little prep talk. There's paperwork in front of you. If you have a difficulty hearing any of the counselors or the presenters, there's a process there to get staff's attention. We won't discourage engagement from the gallery. To engage council, you have to be at the delegation table. So with that being said, we'll move to our first delegation, which is, I don't know which page it's on. Matthew, Corey, and Mike for oh, is he? Okay, so we won't be able to see you.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. I am online. I'll let Mr. Pecora speak and then I'll jump in after.
Excellent. Given ready.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning, Mayor Sealy, councilors, staff, guests. I am Mike Pecora, owner of 7335 Wellington 34, also known as Property H in the Whistler by Design study. And we have Matthew Corey from MGP, who is a registered planner and land economist. He will be giving you some comments and put a finer point on our feelings on the property. But I also first would like to thank both the county and the township for the study. We've followed it closely, attended all meetings. We're happy with the process and doing our best to understand as we go along. So I'll turn it over to Matthew, and I could either stay or just sit. I'll stay right here. There we go. Okay, Matthew, it's all yours.
All right, thanks, Mr. Pecora, and good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and the public. I really apologize for not being there in person. I don't usually do this, but I've got another conflicting meeting after. Really appreciate the time. I'll try to keep it fairly brief. We're talking about, and Mr. Pecora has hired us to give a planning opinion and look at 7335 Wellington Road 34. This is option H in the Whistler by Design work that was done. Wanted to talk about a couple things in this regard. One, there was originally a position by the consultant team that spoke to there only being so much need for rural employment lands. That's something as a land economist and as a planner we felt strongly is a bit of the wrong approach. I think when you're looking at rural employment lands, you really have to look at opportunities and trying to leverage those opportunities with willing partners like Mr. Pecora. And that should be a priority in any study of that nature. And more to the point, and this is something we submitted a letter on, and we're very happy to see the consultants acknowledging in their final work that the PPS, the provincial planning statement, does not require you to only plan within the horizon for employment lands, and especially rural employment lands. Secondly, rural employment lands obviously are very different from those in a settlement area. Putting lands into a settlement area brings a lot of obligations for the municipality, in particular for servicing and other financial implications and obligations. Rural employment lands, especially on Mr. Pecora's property on 7335, can and would develop in a way that don't require municipal services. They certainly can go ahead with little to no risk to the municipality of any kind. And in designating them as a planner, the question we always ask ourselves, what's the harm if you designate this and it doesn't go ahead? Well, in this case, it'll just be maintained as agricultural land. There's no implication. But if there's an opportunity, as there is here, to work with a willing partner and realize an employment use, that is something that I think is very much good planning. It's very much in the interest of the municipality. And it should be something that should be considered very thoughtfully and carefully in a process like this, to leverage the opportunities you have to create great employment uses. The second thing I'll say is that in the latest response matrix that was provided and is attached to this agenda, looking at this property option H is the one that's listed. It's noted that we don't comply with the MDS formula. I would like to respectfully disagree with that assessment. The additional work that was done to analyze this late last year showed a very, very minor incursion, even from the minimum distance separation from the livestock barn to the north, into what would otherwise be a landscaped area on the property. Very minimal, less than 3% of the property was impacted by it. And it can easily be addressed through mitigation and through the development application and zoning side on the MDS, to still allow employment uses here. And then secondly, this is a type A use in the minimum distance separation analysis that the province would look at, meaning quite simply an industrial use is not a sensitive use compared to other uses. It can and would be appropriate and should be looked at in a secondary agricultural area or more of a rural setting, that you could permit these kinds of uses. And we think, respectfully disagree with the consultant perspective that we don't comply with the MDS. I think we absolutely would comply with the MDS with development here, and it can easily be dealt with through any design and zoning requirements ultimately for proposed development here. So in the end, my final opinion, both as a land economist and as a planner, and the request certainly to council, is that prior to adopting or recommending the official plan amendment to the county's official plan to designate the rural employment areas, that you add in this property as a rural employment area. We're asking that council consider that amendment today, that option H be included for rural employment. I think it's a great opportunity. It's very well located. It's certainly within the regional significant economic development study area that the county's official plan had. And it's just perfectly situated relative to the other employment areas, not to mention the proximity to Highway 6 and Highways 401. So that's the request, I would say, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm very here to answer any questions, obviously, with Mr. Pecora, and happy to have you consider that, but absolutely requesting that you add that into the official plan amendment before it's finalized. These lands be designated for rural employment. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for coming in today. It's important to have the landowner as well as their agent. That may give some ease or not to the public to see that it's not just a developer or speculator. So I really appreciate you coming in as the landowner. Sit here, I know it's a little nerve wracking to be in front of.
Okay, I actually like it up here.
Yeah, me too. But we were just discussing before the cameras went on how, we feel nervous at the beginning of every meeting. That is the way it is. It's just
Yeah.
a natural, reaction. So thanks again. Hold on to council. Councilor Hurst? Anything?
Just a couple, just really minor questions. I think, Matthew, one comment that you had was, no need for municipal services. Can you maybe just speak to that? What, maybe a bit more detail around what that would look like with the, property H?
Sure, and through you, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Hirsch, the rural employment designation itself could accommodate what we'd otherwise call dry industrial use, meaning that on-site septic and or water could be used to develop the property. That's what I mean by no municipal services. It could just be an on-site solution. That's the beauty essentially of having rural employment lands, and certainly an abundance of rural employment lands. You have lots of opportunity as a municipality without the concomitant requirement that if it was in the settlement area, you now have to think about how to service this municipally and own and operate a servicing solution, and there's a financial implication. That's not the case with something like this, and especially next to other existing employment and other uses to the south of us. It's a great location for something like that without having to worry about that, and proximal to Aberfoyle as well.
Thanks, and that's really what I was looking for, just a bit more detail as to what your comments entailed. I think I'm good. I think it was a good detailed delegation. I appreciate that. The pre-read was articulate. I don't disagree with where you're at. I think when I look at that property in terms of the grading, in my mind, beyond the properties that had already been identified in D, it's the next best option, and I didn't see a lot of negatives, and I think that's probably another factor when I was going through it is we've had other potential properties in the area. There's a significant amount of impacts for residents of the community. This one, I don't get the feel that that's particularly the case. So thank you. I appreciate you coming to.
I appreciate the feedback, Councilor. Thank you.
Ms. Gordon?
No, I don't have any questions. I do appreciate today.
You're out, great.
No, not.
Oh, you're out. Oh, I thought I heard you say 6.11 when you were.
No, it's at 6.12.
Oh, sorry. Okay, go next.
No, I don't have any specific questions, but I'd like to submit I'll be making a motion with respect to this property at the appropriate time.
Mr. Bailey?
Yeah, thanks for coming today. I
Thank you.
also don't have any questions, but I appreciate, like the mayor said, the home or the property owner, being here and seeing
Yeah, my
you.
pleasure.
in
I won't be
the flesh.
far.
Thank you.
I just want to speak to the, if it was included in a urban boundary and the narrative that it would bring complications for servicing. The township of Puslinch doesn't have any municipal water and wastewater, so I don't know that that would actually be the case. So even if it was included in that boundary expansion, we would still require private servicing. And the dry industrial use, from my knowledge, and I hope I don't misspeak here with Sarah and Jameson here, but we've kind of driven that type of growth to our current industrial area, and that equates to water taking under 50,000 liters per day is that threshold to be dry industrial. Once you go over that, then you need a permit to take water from the ministry, and things get more complicated. So my understanding is that we're focusing on that under 50,000 a liter per day taking for any use that were to come to any property. So above that, we consider that a higher water use, and it opens up a different set of process or even concerns, right? So for all of our employment lands, I feel that's where we're landing is the private services under 50,000 liters per day. And then you get into the multi-penetrating aquifers, which is essentially just concern from our hydro G guy that it needs to be steel encased to wherever the water taking comes from, so the water can't transition. So just a little bit of clarity there. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and we have a recommendation to receive it.
That councilor receives the delegation by Matthew Corey and Mike Pecora for information.
Your mover, please. Councilor Hurst. Mr. Lewis, all in favor? Oh, and lastly, as you heard, or we'll be having the consultant present the last iteration of the recommendation and then likely a decision today. So I encourage you to wait and stick around. Okay.
I have time.
That goes for everybody. I'm just gonna sit down here. Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr. Mayor,
Council.
members of council.
So like Justin Wilson. Great. Whenever you're ready.
Thanks. So yes, hello everyone. I'm a resident on Side Road 20. I'm a member of the Help Protect Puss Lynch Committee, which supports the voice of roughly 130 residents that live within 3 kilometers of options B and C. And a petition was provided to council about one and a half years ago to kind of support that voice of 130 residences. I've wrote a letter that I'd like to kind of talk through, and it's regards to the recent addendums to what the professional planner has said from the county and township. So, to the mayor and council, the Puss Lynch by Design process has truly been an emotional journey, marked by nights of restless sleep, countless hours of discussion, difficult conversations with neighbors and friends, and ultimately a realization that our voices were not just heard, but genuinely considered. It has challenged us, drawn us together, and reminded us the deep care we all share for the future of this community. I want to sincerely thank council and the team at MPG Solutions for taking the time to listen to us, to thoughtfully consider our concerns, and to work towards outcomes that reflect the values and priorities of the people who live here. Your willingness to engage with residents through every phase of the project, whether through the multiple public open houses that I attended, and I've seen mostly all of you there, or the private meetings when we've called upon you, you guys have answered the call. Throughout this process, I've found myself stepping out of my comfort zone, just like I am today, and speaking up in ways I normally wouldn't. In doing so, I know I've expressed frustrations at times and may have speculated on matters without the benefit of full context or information. So for that, I especially want to extend apology to Mayor Sealy. My intentions have always come from a place of deep care and concern for this community, and I'm grateful for the openness with which council has responded to us all. So over the past week, we continue to engage actively, consulting with both internal and external experts, asking questions, and closely reviewing the addendum to Phase 5 report. Based on this review, we fully support the revised recommendation by the professional planners at MPG Solutions to remove the future rural employment area overlay. We also strongly support the effort to strengthen policy 9.83 of the County of Wellington's official plan, ensuring that a more detailed transportation plan is developed, one that includes clear provisions for the use and limitations of Side Road 20 North. With the overlay now removed, we are pleased to express our support for this outcome and in turn for the indebted Phase 5 report. Council's willingness to listen, reflect, and respond to community feedback has not gone unnoticed. We feel respected, valued, and most importantly, included. Thank you for fostering an atmosphere where public engagement is encouraged and striving to make decisions that serve the best interest of our township. Our shared goal remains the same: protect productive agricultural lands, preserve the quiet character that makes Puss Lynch unique, and ensure that all future development aligns with long-term needs and values of the community. This exhaustive planning process has identified more than enough employment lands to serve us well to 2051 and beyond. Lands that are appropriately located and compatible with the surrounding community's fabric. Developers must respect these rigorous and well-informed planning efforts, which exist to ensure land use decisions enhance, not erode, what we value most about our home. We also trust that the County of Wellington's official plan, particularly its emphasis on demonstrated need, will continue to guide future decisions and help ensure that development remains aligned with the land use principles our community has worked so hard to define and protect. Thank you again for your thoughtful leadership, for your dedication to evidence-based planning, for listening to and acting on our concerns that were raised by the community, and for your ongoing commitment to the people of West Lynch. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. I think we're all cut from the same cloth in the sense that we care deeply. You know, the members here have two weights on a scale, and it's, you know, trying to make the best decision they can for the corporation and the best decision for, you know, the citizens. And being elected officials, we do have to take some, whether it's criticism, some hits. And, you know, I spoke to you after the public meeting, so I truly appreciate that. I don't know if it was absolutely necessary, because I struggle with the fact that you're an elected official. We're just people. You know, I don't get upset, but when people say, oh, you're a politician, I don't view myself as a politician. I view myself as somebody who cared in the community that wanted to get involved, just as you're getting involved. But truly, we are politicians to real life. But so with that, we have to have some expectation of pushback or criticism, but it's very difficult to hear at times. So I do appreciate that, but I do accept the fact that I have to take some of that. And it does get challenging at times. This process, very proud of this process. The engagement, as you spoke to, we've heard that from others, and seeing the modifications. Now, there was some times where there was rhetoric that, where did this come from? But that's how the system works, is you give feedback, and then the planners and the experts take that feedback. It's not premeditated. It's trying to adapt to the feedback from the community, but then it's, you know, you gotta take time out of your weekend because it drops on Friday and the meeting's on the Wednesday, but that's our lives too. We might have a general idea, you know, they might say, oh, well, we heard from the public, we're gonna look at an overlay or future designation. Then we see it the Friday as well. So it is very challenging. It may give some perception that it's coming out of nowhere, as I think one of the terms, but that's not the case. It's trying to take that feedback from the community, adjust the proposal, and I'm happy that we won't have to go through another one of these for hopefully in our lifetime with the designations that are provided, but it's very important. No, here I'll put the mayor hat on with, and you've heard me say this before, with the growth that's coming, we are not in the driver's seat. My analogy is we may have a hand on the steering wheel. That's where I want the township to be, is a hand on the steering wheel, helping make it the best we can. And you know, in my mind, the designation is the best option. Then the consultant came up with the overlay, and then kind of, you know, audible and said, well, we feel, you know, I hope I'm not putting words in those, but we can capture it in policy. And then the community felt some relief with that in the policy. So yes, it's been a long road.
Yes.
We do, I shouldn't speak for the councilors, but I'm pretty sure we're all very appreciative of the feedback, but it's tough. It's tough. So thanks again for the apology. I do appreciate it. But I think we're from the same cloth. We're both passionate people, and it was tough, but we got to a good spot so far. So, Councilor Hurst?
Yeah, good comments, Mayor Sealy. Yeah, I think just good delegation. I appreciate the time and effort that you put into this and over the course of a number of years. And we've had some tough conversations, but also encouraging conversations, Justin. So I appreciate, you know, both you as a voice of the 130 concerned citizens in there, but I appreciate the time and effort. Like, this is outside and beyond, you know, what your normal day job and life is. So I appreciate that. So thank you. Good delegation.
Yeah, I mean, along the same lines as everyone, that was a very genuine and very heartfelt delegation you made today. And I think, like the mayor said, I'm really proud that this whole process, that the community has been really engaged and council has been engaged. And I think the end result is something that I'm happy to hear you say that you can support. That's the ultimate end goal. So thank you to everyone, yourself and everyone in your group, for staying the course and being involved that whole time, because it really does help us when we're in these difficult positions work through it. So thanks.
Thanks, Council.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you coming today. I can I can relate to where you're sitting. What got me here was doing a delegation years ago to council and spending lots of sleepless nights worrying about, you know, a situation and then kind of learning the process and realizing that, you know, as what's happening here, there should be some give and take and listening and moving forward with it. So yeah, I can appreciate where you've been and appreciate that you're here today. I don't have any direct questions. I think the process sounds like has brought you and your neighbors together, which is maybe a bonus out of this whole thing. So anyway, thanks again for coming.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Right, you have a condition release.
The council receives the delegation by Justin Missenberg for information.
Over, please. Mr. Blair, Councilor Hurst, all in favor? Thanks, Justin. Mr. Johnson. Next, I believe is Emily Elliott. Good morning.
Morning, Mayor Sealy and members of council. My name is Emily Elliott. I am a registered professional planner with MHBC Planning. And I'm speaking today on behalf of Puslinch Developments GP Inc., who are the owners of the property known as 4631 Side Road 20 North. So I have a brief presentation today that I'd like to go through. There was a PowerPoint. It's included with the agenda package. I don't know what page exactly that is on, but if you want to follow along, I do have one handout if that's useful for anybody. But I'll just go through this brief presentation today. And there's also a letter that was submitted as part of the agenda package that kind of summarizes these comments. So we've been following closely the Puslinch by Design process and have provided comments to staff and attended the open houses, and just like to thank county staff and the consultants for their efforts with this study. Through this process, our clients' lands were not included within an employment designation, and we're here today to request that council designate the land's prestige rural employment area through the official plan amendment and incorporate some site-specific policies. So I'll just provide a bit of background information and rationale, and then as part of the letter, we did provide a draft OPA with those site-specific policies that we're requesting. So this site is about 22.5 hectares. It's located on the south side of Highway 6, and it has frontage on Concession Road 4 and Side Road 20. It's just north of the recently constructed Highway 6 mid-block interchange spot. Currently, the site is farmed with cash cropping, but it is a relatively small parcel for crops, and it's partially constrained for that by a centrally located wetland. The site's also generally fairly flat. The southern portion of the site is already designated rural employment area in the county OP. And earlier in 2014, it was in February, the owners filed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications to facilitate the development of these lands as a prestige employment campus. The vision for that development includes head offices, manufacturing, warehousing, and associated uses. And the owners are planning to relocate their corporate head offices from lands outside of Puslinch into the township. So the planned development represents a fairly significant investment and job creation for the township, and the owners are investment ready pending the applications. As I said, the lands are partially within the rural employment, and they're also currently designated secondary agriculture and core greenlands. They're included in the regionally significant economic development study area, which represents all those lands that are in the Puslinch by Design study. And the site really does form part of an employment corridor along Highway 6. And that corridor includes lands that are south within the land or within Puslinch, and lands to the north within the city of Guelph that are already designated for and developed with employment uses. The lands within Puslinch are those lands on the south side of Highway 6 that are designated, and you can see that on in the presentation on I think it's the third slide. And then, like I said, the southern portion already does have that rural employment area designation. So including these lands as part of an employment area really does complete this corridor along Highway 6. So like I said, we're requesting that council revise the OPA to designate the lands and include site-specific policies. And these site-specific policies are intended to ensure that development is compatible and appropriate for the site. So we've included policies that would restrict access to side road 20, so require the access to be from concession road 4, establishing appropriate setbacks and landscaping and fencing policies for the site, and including a policy requiring consideration of alternate truck and employment traffic routes to avoid truck and traffic traveling down side road 20. So in support of this request, we just note that the lands were really generally ranked fairly favorably through the phase 5 evaluation report and do address the principles for land use. The designation will facilitate the development of the site for businesses that are really investment ready and seeking to relocate their national headquarters to the township. The uses are proposed to be dry industrial. And then with this site and the surrounding context, it will result in kind of unlocking the existing designated lands along the west side of Highway 6 that have some access restrictions and complete that corridor I mentioned. Through the site-specific policies in conjunction with the zoning bylaw amendment and site plan approval, we can address matters related to compatibility, and the owners are committed to, like I said, restricting access so that it's from concession road 4, working with the township, the county, and MTO to explore a service road from concession 4 to the mid-block interchange, situating development on the site to maximize setbacks to adjacent land, so locating it really as close to Highway 6 as they can. Including large landscape buffers along the perimeter that are planted with shade trees, and including publicly accessible walking trails, and then designing the site to address any, impacts that the development could have. So whether that be noise or lighting, incorporating necessary mitigation measures through the design. There also aren't any MDS impacts that can't be dealt with through appropriate site building location on the site. So just in summary, like I said, we're requesting that council modify the draft OPA in line with the version that we submitted. The site is investment ready with owners seeking to relocate here to Puss Lynch. And this designation, we see it as ensuring that the lands will be developed with a high quality employment focused development in a strategic area adjacent to the highway, and facilitate development that require visually appealing, high profile site, and will ultimately be developed with high quality design standards and incorporate land use compatibility. The owners of these lands are really eager to realize the investment that they've made so far on this site and invest further in the township with the construction of this site. And they've already demonstrated this through the efforts made in submitting their OPA and ZBA applications. So we think that those applications really do demonstrate the development of the land is feasible and represents good planning. So we're here today to ask council to redesignate the lands as proposed in our draft OPA, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have today.
Great. Thank you for your presentation, very thorough. So go to council first. Sir.
No, I don't. I appreciate your delegation, and as the mayor noted, the submission was very detailed, so thank you.
No,
Sir.
No, I guess I just have more of a procedural kind of clarification. So you mentioned that there's a current application that was put in February 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So you're already in the process of
Yes, that's correct.
getting this done. So coming today would be for the purpose of just trying to speed up your application.
Through the mayor, we would still, if the lands are included in the employment designation, we do still have to go through the zoning bylaw amendment application process. So it won't necessarily speed things up. It will streamline the two processes though.
I guess just to comment that this, the Puss Lynch by Design has been a long process.
Mhm.
I think something like this maybe should have come earlier so that the public would have had some, opportunity to be discussing it while all of the other things were going. Just a comment that I'm making. Appreciate you coming today.
Yeah, I'm gonna elaborate on that a little bit as well, because trying to think through the process in my mind, you have an application in, and I'm not insinuating that desire to designate it, but to me, that locks that application into the rules that Mary Lou indicated at the public meeting, that that's the provincial rules right now. So with your application in, even if council were to designate it all, right? My understanding is that there wouldn't be any mechanism for us to force compliance to all of those requirements because the application is in. So we wouldn't be able to hold you to whatever standard we would want to put in, whether we wanted to make it something ridiculous or not. As an applicant, you would be able to just say, no, our application went in February. So I'm not understanding the importance of having the designation because you've already filed this application, because the only way that we'd be able to get compliance with whatever we were to build out for the employment lands is if you were a willing participant and there was a crossroads, you could simply just say no. So I'm not understanding why.
Sure, I think that's a fair question. Going through this process, as well as having our application in, it does result in a more streamlined approach where there is not that uncertainty of, which rules apply. It's very clear to everyone that the lands are designated through Postage by Design, and we're not kind of backtracking when we go through the private OPA application. It also provides a level of certainty that when we proceed with the zoning bylaw amendment application, the lands are designated. So that's a significant piece as well.
It's reducing your risk big time, because what you're saying is if it was designated, then you'd have a better argument through your OPA because it was designated, so okay, I was just curious because I just wasn't getting it in my mind how it mattered because you were already locked in with Zoll Grove, so that helps, thank you. Okay, anything further? Type recommendation.
Councilor sees the delegation by Emily Elliott for.
Mover please, Councilor Bailey, Councilor Hurst, all in favor? Carried. And lastly, we have a written delegation from Pierre Chauvin. I believe that's for property G. And the recommendation to receive.
Councilor receives the written delegation by Pierre Chauvin for action.
Please, Councilor Spose, Councilor Bailey. Sure. All in favor? It's carried. All right. You get meat and potatoes out of it. Mary Lou? Oh, Denise is joining you or? Welcome. Well, unfortunately, our tech is not working. But
That's okay.
we're all very familiar with it.
You all have backup plans, right?
Very, Mr. Chair, we're also sharing the presentation online for the folks who are viewing.
Okay. All right, good morning and thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who's attended online and provided written feedback. We can go to the second slide, which is the recommended land option and land use report, and from what we heard from council and at the open house. So, I think a number of people have said this has been a long process, and a project like this would be a long process. And there's been a lot of discussion and engagement and feedback, and we have tried our best to respond as we were receiving that feedback. I know at times it's felt a little circuitous, but those conversations are incredibly important to coming to the final recommendation, which is where we are today in terms of what's in the addendum report to the Phase 5 report. So there is generally support for option D. It does achieve a number of things that were priorities for this study, including a minimum of 30 hectares of rural employment land. Option D is over 90 when we get to the net number, which removes the natural heritage features. It's about 86 hectares, so it's significantly more, and it does provide some of the things that we heard from the land economist study done by Parcel Economics about the importance of major transportation corridors and facing major transportation corridors. And that option D does achieve that with fronting the 401. Together with the urban design guidelines, it certainly provides a direction for high quality, high design development facing 401, but also creates from the 401 a really positive image of the township in terms of the quality of the development. So that prestige rural employment area is a key update to the county official plan, recognizing the importance of facing those major transportation corridors. In addition, we've done a lot of work to understand where rural residential homes are, where rural residential clusters are. And the importance of a couple of things. So first is making sure that there's a healthy distance, and that is 70 meters from rural homes, and that would be natural self-sustaining vegetation. So there would be no development in that. And within the draft official plan amendment, that cannot be varied by the Committee of Adjustment. It has to go through a future official plan amendment to reduce it. And that is a really, really, excuse me, important point, because it contributes to the retention of rural character, and it makes sure that development isn't creeping closer to those particular homes. Through these conversations, there were other issues that we heard about. One was, and we've heard today, requests for inclusion of certain properties within either the rural employment designation or the prestige rural employment designation, and feedback about planning for beyond 30 years, which the county absolutely can do. You know, the letter from Mr. Corey was correct on that in terms of the provincial planning statement. We looked at the future rural employment area overlay, which was options B and C and G and H. And we had discussions with council about it a couple of times, and discussions with the community. And in the end, it's just a tool that's not going to work in this community. It probably created more confusion than clarity. And so we didn't want to do that. And we certainly wanted to make sure, however, that we were providing clarity of direction, and it just didn't quite hit the mark. So it has been removed. But the county official plan does have a strong framework in section 9.8.3, and we have added additional policies in there that achieve what we were trying to achieve with the overlay, and some of the important conceptual matters, like the importance of a detailed transportation plan for lands west of the Hanlon Expressway, the importance of not allowing employment generated traffic to use Side Road 20 North, no driveways on Side Road 20 North from any employment lands west of the Hanlon Expressway. And so those are important considerations that we have built into the policy framework in the updated draft of the official plan amendment. We can go to the next slide, which is option H and the mapping of it. So we've heard from Mr. Pecora and Mr. Corey about option H and their request for inclusion. We included the map of option H so you can see the MDS and natural heritage issues with option H, and you can see option G to the north as well. The MDS analysis was done by professional agrologists who are accredited to do that work. And they did use the MDS analysis that in their professional opinion is the appropriate one. And it results in the mapping that you see, and that there is an MDS issue on both options G and H. It is something that could be resolved if the livestock barn was removed, but at this point in time, the livestock barn is still there. In addition to the MDS requirements, the provincial policy statements also, it's singular, also requires that an assessment be done of the impact on the agricultural system if we're looking to expand settlement area. Although Mr. Corey indicated that he believed the MDS issue would be resolved with option H, it is the two parts. It's MDS and the agricultural system impact, and that latter has not been done by the proponent for option H. It doesn't mean it can't be done, and it doesn't mean it can't be achieved, but that is the private application process to achieve that. With regard to, let me just divert to the presentation just now for the lands on the north side of Side Road 4 and west of the Hanlon Expressway. They were reviewed. They are not recommended. They were in the overlay, but at this point in time, given all of the analysis that has been done looking at agriculture and aggregates and transportation and land economics, option D is the recommended option. It exceeds the required land area that the county had identified in its growth management strategy. And that is the recommended option to move forward with the county official plan amendment. I think the other thing that's important to note, and we did talk about it at the open houses and the public meetings, is there is a place for process in the planning system in Ontario. And certainly the lands on the west side of the Hanlon Expressway, north of Side Road 4, have a current application. There is the ability for landowners, particularly options G and H, to initiate their own applications. Quite honestly, in discussions with our county colleagues, that process is available to them. And it does require the work to be done to establish need, the agricultural system assessment, as well as their own agrologist doing the minimum distance separation review, in addition to the agricultural system analysis that would need to be done. So that is available to the landowner outside this process. We can go to the next slide, which has changes in response to community and council input. So as I mentioned, we have removed the future employment areas overlay. We have made updates to section 9.8.3 of the existing county official plan framework, which includes the requirements that road infrastructure improvements are paid for by development and not by the township or the county. Policies related to communal wells and managing communal versus private wells. Policies related to general land use compatibility in that 70 meters and the importance of land use compatibility. The requirements for transportation plan and concept plan for lands west of the Hamlin Expressway. And this is very, very important. We heard from one of the presenters about the need for connectivity, road connectivity further south and potentially a service road. That transportation study needs to be done, and it needs to be done in concert with the township and the county and MTO. And then limitations on the use of side road 20, which would include no employment generated traffic going to side road 20. That would be established through a transportation study, as well as a prohibition on driveways accessing side road 20. The application guidance and design guidelines have been updated to reflect what I have just given you an overview on, and the addendum report identifies all of this. We can go to the amended official plan mapping slide now. And it shows the two maps. The first is identifying the rural employment area, and the second one on the right with the yellow is the prestige rural employment area and the rural employment area. And we can go to the next step. So with your conclusions today and the resolutions you passed today, that concludes our work on this study. And then the draft official plan amendment would be processed by the County of Wellington. That would include engagement with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, which is required under the Planning Act, and then further public engagement through the county process. And if I could just make some concluding comments, I and Denise and our team have greatly appreciated the conversations, the feedback, and you have helped us hone our thinking and our recommendations to you, and we are very grateful for that. I'm grateful for the respectful process that has occurred, and it has been a real pleasure to work with your staff and the county staff as well. So with that, I am concluded, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Concerns?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for that, Mary Lou. Actually, I echo your comments at the end. I think my experience as a counselor in this process, having ever experienced the journey that you kind of have taken, have gone through, has been very educational for me, and all the complexities that go into planning, but also it's exciting in the sense of like, this is an opportunity for this township to agree to the mayor's comments, to point in the direction we would like to go or intend to go from a development standpoint. So I think that's important. Couple quick questions. Yeah, I think generally I'm supportive of the end point here. The one question I had was, can you maybe just speak to the ag impact analysis? And my understanding would be that it wouldn't be part of the 9.8.3, but it would be a site-specific impact analysis at a point in time where an application was put forward to develop that land. Can you maybe just speak to that?
Yeah, certainly. So the two aspects of the provincial planning statement are the minimum distance separation and then the agricultural system analysis. So it would be done at the point in time leading up to the application. So the system analysis, it typically looks about kilometer and a half away from the particular site as to what's going on in the agricultural system. it's land use compatibility, but it's also the road infrastructure and making sure that there's an understanding of how agricultural operations in the area use the road system so that they can continue to do so successfully. But it also it would have to address land use compatibility as well.
It's helpful. I was trying to reconcile that between it being incorporated into 9.8.3. Which is where my head went, but then what I'm understanding is that's just a later stage in the process. So I think that had it clear to me. The one question I had was around G&H, and I guess geographically, when I look at the mapping, they seem entirely connected, although they're two different properties. They're side by side, same I guess concession 7, the access point for both of them. Although, I'm just curious, can you maybe speak to it? And we had two different delegations on both G and H, maybe somewhat differing thoughts on that one. Can you maybe speak to the benefits and the drawback of including one versus both together? And I guess in your report, I'm seeing H, but I didn't see G.
Yeah, so they are in somewhat of a similar situation. They are good options. Truly, in all of the assessment that we completed, they did very, very well. The livestock barn is an issue. H has some natural heritage right at concession 7, so it could not have road access through that natural heritage system without much more detailed study to confirm there were no environmental impacts. They have the ability to provide a healthy amount of employment land. H would be 30 hectares net. G is less than that. I think it's in the low 20s, if I recall correctly, because of the natural heritage on it. And there are rural residential homes in the vicinity. So managing that interface becomes that 70 meters becomes incredibly important. I think the issues with both G and H are these. D exceeds the need that has been established and approved by the province in the county's growth management strategy. So that's the first hurdle. The second is dealing with the agricultural issues. And then the third is the details of, how many lots are going to be created, what the types of uses are, where the buildings are going to be. Is it going to be through plan of subdivision or severances, the transportation analysis that needs to be done. With both G and H, although we didn't get into it in great detail, the transportation issues, you would want to pay close attention to them because of its the number of rural homes around it, its proximity to other rural residential areas as well.
Thanks. I think those are all the questions. Thank you for all the work you've done in the last couple of years.
Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah, thanks. I want to reiterate the comments. Thank you really sincerely for all of your work and input and answering questions along this whole process. I think one of the things that has been really wonderful is how you have managed to be able to take something that has been such a complex planning exercise and articulate it in such a way that makes sense and is easy to understand, and your willingness to speak to the public and listen to their concerns. That's been really valuable. So thank you very much. And I just have maybe 2 quick points. One is maybe more just wanting to sort of understand or maybe get some reassurance in regards to that overlay. We had originally in our last round that proposed overlay specifically is for areas B and C. That was put there to sort of add this extra layer, maybe not protection, but raise the bar, I think is the words you had said. And I just want to make sure that with removing that overlay and instead adding wording into the policy, are you confident that that adds the same level of protection that it would in an overlay? Is there any loophole or, way around it? It's still, the intent is still the same and the requirement would still be the same either way?
The requirement is still the same, even with the overlay. Any property owners would have to file for a county official plan amendment and substantiate it based on the requirements of the county official plan and the provincial planning statement. So what we have done is the key issues that we wanted to build into the policies around the overlay, we have moved to actually policies and just taken the mapping out.
And it effectively does the same.
Yes, it does.
And then, I don't know, maybe too late at this point in time, but just the wording in the OPA, Section 4, there's a section in there that talks about Section C. It says all lands designated rural employment and prestige rural employment, whether existing or by future official plan amendment, should comply. And then there's a separate section that talks about transportation plan. And it talks about for lands west of the Hanlon Expressway designated as rural employment on Schedule B7. And I'm just wondering if that language could be strengthened by adding language similar to the point above by saying all lands, whether existing or by future official plan amendment, to ensure that that entire parcel would ensure that there's no access to Side Road 20 North.
I think we can do that. Looking at county colleagues, but yes, I think we can do that.
I think it would just strengthen the requirement.
Mhm.
That's all my question.
Okay.
Councilor Bailey. Well, you're,
I'm just gonna say a couple.
oh, I thought you were out.
I'm out and I'm not out.
Okay. Yeah, it's a whole entire show.
So, certainly I appreciate you, working with all the residents and, developing this, final conclusion and recommendation report. It's been a pleasure. Unfortunately, I couldn't participate as the area of conflict B and C involved analyzing all the properties in the same matrix. I would have liked to participate, but unfortunately could not. So thank you very much. And, Mr. Mayor, when the opportune times, I'd like to make a motion with respect to G and H.
I have some words on what's going to Councilor Bailey. It's good.
Thank you. I guess just a clarification on how an OPA amendment goes in, so to both of you. So Councilor Gorda just mentioned, changing some wording and having some of that. Is what gets submitted to the ministry still open to change, or is what we submit, does that gets approved and it is, or is there still, I don't know, opportunity for that to change?
So let me describe the process and then maybe Sarah can add into it. So the county is required to send the draft of the official plan amendment to the ministry for a 90-day review. And in that 90-day period, the county cannot either advertise or hold a public meeting. This gives the ministry and partner ministries, such as the Ministry of Transportation, the opportunity to review it and provide feedback to the county. Then the county will initiate the public process, so there'll be an open house and a public meeting. So there's still opportunity for refinement based on certainly the provincial feedback, but also through county council and for the community and landowners to provide additional feedback as the amendment process unfolds.
Can I interject? I think I know where you were going with that. What I believe the councilor's question is, can the ministry modify the submission to their liking? So when we first cast a net for a study area, it's called the Estelle property was excluded. It went to the ministry, it came back, it was in, they modified it. So when our process is done, the last iteration is at the ministry. Do they have the capacity or the ability to add lands, remove lands, modify things?
They do,
That's
yes,
exact, yeah.
they do, yes. And alter, refine, remove wording, add policies.
Say no, they could say no.
They could say no.
They could say none, they can say all, they could say as presented.
Take out parts.
Could-
Okay, so it'll be there's still another opportunity for us to really make sure that the wording is what we want for protections. Or what, like our delegate was asking. Okay. Okay.
On that front, as we work through when it's at the county, that's another opportunity for wording amendments. I'm sure county staff would take it, but what I was referring to, once we are done and satisfied with what we want to present, then it's in the hands of the
Right.
province and they are the jurisdiction, so they can add, modify, cancel, do as they please.
Correct. Which concerns me. However, my next question is, in regards to, so we've got option D as the preferred. How I'm seeing that is now we've got all our eggs in one basket with a landowner, I don't know, and we don't know that that landowner wants to develop. So we've done this whole process, we've done this fantastic job at finding some land that's suitable, but we don't actually know if it will get developed. What if in the next 30 years, it doesn't get developed? Would not adding G&H or looking at some of the other ones that were satisfied in the project not be good to include?
So it is a balancing act of the requirements of the province, so. The requirement to establish need, the need is a minimum of 30 hectares. Option D achieves that. This process identified other priorities. The frontage on the 401 corridor is incredibly important for presenting the face of the township and a positive employment picture as people are coming along the 401 for the township. There are more than one, there's more than one property in option D. And the size, when you take out the natural heritage, is about 86 hectares, so there is opportunity. But I want to go back to a comment that I made earlier. There is a place for process in all of this. So just because a landowner isn't recommended, it doesn't mean they're out forever. The process does allow them to pursue their own private application. And in some instances, it may actually be quicker than the ministry process, because at best, our estimates and discussions with Sarah is about a year away from a ministry decision. In that time, any landowner could get their application together, get the studies together that are required, and move forward. But the fundamentals about dealing with the requirements of the provincial policy statement, but then also layering in the Puss Lynch specific requirements in the county official plan, those are really important outcomes, things like, the 70-meter setback, the natural self-sustaining vegetation. Those are contributions to the retention of rural character. The importance of the transportation plan and concept plan for lands west of the Hanlon Expressway, the very high bar and limitations on Side Road 20 North. Those are all really, really important local issues that we have captured. It doesn't preclude the private applications. We cannot do that, but it does set the framework and that higher bar for expectations.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you for all the hard work. I know individual counselors and I have had a few conversations about your handling of public meetings, and I said it publicly at one of them. It's you do a fantastic job. This was a charged room. It's changed, it's challenging, and did very well. So I just wanted to express my gratitude for holding those meetings and keeping decorum and running it very well. So I'm gonna throw something out here in the 11th hour, 59th minute. And I don't know why it didn't dawn on me earlier, but so when we first had these discussions, I believe with either Courtney or county staff, the prestigious idea was, I believe, partially mine. But what I noticed in our current industrial zone, so if you drive Nicholas Beaver and the old original part, it's not manicured. It's very rough looking, for lack of better terms. You then go drive over to current industrial park. All of that area is manicured lands, not Armorstone, but all of the properties, for whatever reason, whether it was through site plan, mow the grass, they keep it looking nice. So when this was in its infancy, I was thinking, we're gonna have employment lands. I want it to look nice and simple terms. I don't want it to look like Nicholas Beaver, and I apologize if I offend all the people that operate in Nicholas Beaver, but it's the back portion that's pretty rough looking. And I've heard you say this term a bunch of times, and it never dawned on me until today. You said natural self-sustaining vegetation, which on a whole, I'm like, that's a great idea. Then I got thinking, oh my gosh, does this mean it's all naturalized and we're gonna have a look of Nicholas Beaver versus Kerr Industrial? So as, I'm not saying I wanna get rid of the natural self-sustaining vegetation, but I wanna make sure that this thing looks, or from the public, from the road, looks decent. I don't want it to just be long grass and dead trees falling over, and just ugly, simple terms. So what's your idea of natural self-sustaining vegetation?
So it's a great question, and it applies at the interface of employment and residential. So it's in that 70-meter area. It would be native species. It would be planted based on an approved site plan. So it would include the species, their location. And really what you want to get is trees and plants that are native to this area that, don't have to be watered. You don't need to be doing a lot of maintenance on them. But through the site plan process and the layout of the landscape plan, you get a really good looking landscape as well. And because the site plan agreements are enforceable by the township, you can make sure, number one, that when it's done, that it's done in accordance with the site plan. So you get the right trees, the right species in the right location, and then you're ensuring that it is growing as was anticipated. For the balance of the site, the landscape plan is going to look different, and you want it to look different for exactly the reasons that you've identified. You still want native species, you want high quality landscape design, but you want something that is going to present a stronger image for the community in terms of, this is where employment's happening, this matters to us, and this is a high quality environment.
That brings me comfort. I feel that even up against the residential, there could be a transition period where maybe it's through the site plan process, it's more manicured transitions to, we do want low maintenance, right? So,
Yeah.
okay, that brings me comfort. It's just first of all, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna just make weeds. But, I scribbled a couple notes here, but I'm pretty comfortable. I'm not a betting man. I'm losing my money, but I don't have enough of it. D, I don't suspect that delineation will be as presented, or will not be adopted as presented. I believe we're going to see modification when it goes to MMH. I don't want to elaborate further on that, but that's just, if I were a betting man.
Okay.
So we can wait and see. I am hopeful I am wrong. Now, I'm not saying it's gonna be reduced by half or anything like that, but I definitely believe we will see a reduction there. And, yeah, hope I'm wrong, but
Okay.
either way, it doesn't mean we shouldn't have chosen that one. And, it's all good. So thank you for all the hard work and
Thank you.
again, taking all the comments into consideration. So we have recommendation to receive that? Oh yeah, you're gonna go first, yes.
Yes, so I'd like to make the motion, Mr. Mayor, with respect to options G and H. We heard some councilors mention the fact that we're putting all our eggs in one basket with option D. And as you pointed out, Mr. Mayor, it might be changing. And I think the fact that we've gone through an exhaustive study and we don't want to do this in another 10 years when we find out that, oh, guess what, D is completely modified, it's no longer usable. I think we should put more irons in the fire, so to speak, and include G and H as rural employment land. So I structure my motion accordingly. And it reads as such: whereas the agents representing the property owners of the lands designated as land options G and H in the study entitled Business by Design Employment Land Study, Recommended Land Option Land Use Study, have requested that these lands be designated as rural employment. And whereas the study concludes that option G and H were the next best performing candidates after the recommended option D. And whereas having more than one option designated as rural employment will provide more opportunities for industrial commercial development. Be resolved that the draft OPA be amended to also designate options G and H as rural employment, and with the county of Wellington, the township of Worcester develop for option G and H, the documents, development, application guidance, and rural employment lands design guidelines.
Okay, it's moved. Councilor Hurst. All right. You're up.
We'll say councilors, we'll say, I think I'm in the same headspace.
That's good.
Yeah, very good, motion. I think that adding G and H, could also help reduce future development pressure on more sensitive land uses outside of D, G and H. I think that maybe by providing some alternative viable options would just raise the bar for establishing need in any other areas, even that much further. So in that sense, and I hear what's being said about MDS as well, but I also think, you know, over the next 30 years, MDS is not necessarily static. It could change, it could cease operation. And so I think it just allows for some added flexibility. So I would support it.
Yeah, well said. Thank you, Councillor Sepoulos, for the motion. Yeah, like I've said before, I just worry that we're putting all our eggs in one basket doing D. I don't know what's on the horizon for that property there, but, or those properties. Sounds like there's more than one. When looking at the mapping, it appears that north of G, I think, is already zoned some sort of industrial. And across the road or across behind H is aggregate in there. So it's kind of already sandwiched between some zoning that's consistent. Yeah. I think having to go within the next 30 years, having to go through a whole nother study like this, just to kind of come up with the same G and H option as good options, doesn't really make sense. If we're already going through the process and we've already established that these are good options, it makes sense to just include them now. And just of note, the county's doing our residential rural growth right now. And so what we've established is a lot of residential growth definitely away from this area. So that seems to actually work with establishing this area as employment lands. We know that it's not being encouraged residential right around there. So it kind of works in tandem. So I support the motion.
I also support the motion. I support D. In my mind, each block of properties had a motive and for myself, you know, there's certain growth down by D, right? G and H have the county roads. D, concession 7, we just recently paved it. It's already getting beat up from heavy truck. It wouldn't be suitable for growth. I mean, a developer could upgrade it. So as much as it has frontage on 401, it doesn't have access and only a small portion of it is on a haul route. So there'd be some major infrastructure upgrades there, which may or may not incentivize or not a developer, whereas G and H are on County Road 34. I agree with you. I don't see them having access off concession 7. They have wetlands or natural heritage features along those borders. I also, the MDS, I think that can be worked through. See it a lot on the residential side. So I'm supportive of it. And again, you know, this has been a process and, you know, I'd hate for a council to be in a situation where D gets stagnated. So it's like, well, we're getting pressure or something, need to go through a whole nother process where we've done the work here, we've spent the money, we've engaged the consultants and appreciate the feedback and the recommendations. But I'm going to support it as well. So those are my last comments. Nope, good, all in favor? Okay. Are we good on?
I have one more.
And then, so now we're gonna receive the OPA as amended. Okay, I'll read it.
That councilors use the Coastlands by Design Employment Land Study prepared by NPG for information, and that council endorses the revised development application guidance and revised design guidelines. And the council endorses the draft OPA subject to revisions to designate areas G and H for rural employment purposes in addition to area D. And that copy of this resolution and applicable documents be forwarded to the county of Wellington.
You gonna move, please, Councilor Hurst. Councilor Guida, last comments.
Can I just ask a question? Along with D, we have established there's prestige the
Prestige Industrial.
Prestige Industrial along there. And I'm just wondering if staff can speak to how we can, maybe without designating Prestige with G&H, still have that kind of higher level of nice looking property. And I'm wondering if Courtney can speak to that.
So with the proposed official plan, amendments for the policies around. Will be, instead of having the overlay, the official plan language, which would be all encompassing of all, could that be applied to these lands? Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if,
Oh, there's Courtney.
yeah, Courtney can speak to that.
Good morning. So I believe that the motion also includes developing design guidance materials as well for G&H. So that would be something that we could look at when we're designing those documents, similar to what we've done for D. And in addition, the township zoning bylaw does also have an industrial design overlay that's applied to industrial zone lands that face on arterial roads in the township. So I think that would be something that we would look at as well, potentially adding these lands once they are designated and zoned into that overlay. So I do think that there are tools that we can use to control sort of the design aspects of whatever development is proposed.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. All right, all in favor? Scary. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We take a 5-minute break. While you come in with Tim.
We'll be taking a 5-minute.
All right, welcome back. Thank you for allowing me to have a welcome break. And next up is 7.2, the presentation from Ms. Wilhelm and Mr. Park Jameson, right? Last name?
That's right.
Excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Mhm.
We're not going to have the PowerPoint presentation up, but I can walk through it and it got to you before in the agenda beforehand. I think really the purpose of the PowerPoint is to try to insert more interest and graphics into what can be a dry bit of material. So we're following up from the June 18th meeting that we attended and talked about primarily the potential to expand Aberfoyle and some of the other rural growth options available to the township. So we're covering off lot size today and area D. I'm going to cover off the lot size and Jameson will get into area D in a moment. So we looked at two aspects of lot size, one being undersized and the other being oversized, with 1 acre being the preferred lot size. Just wanted to start with maybe what the concerns would be that we would be looking at, and on the undersized side of the equation, really just making sure that the lot is big enough to support all of the necessities of a residential use. And then there are technical matters related to water and wastewater servicing on those smaller lots. And then for oversized, just generally that there are good reasons for a lot to be larger and preservation of agricultural land. And the presentation had a quote from the policies of the official plan, and there are criteria that need to be met for all new secondary agricultural rural residential lots. And there are also other general criteria that all lots need to satisfy. And so the lot creation criteria A deals with lot size and establishes a minimum lot size of 1 acre, but it does use the term generally, and that term gives some degree of flexibility to go below that 1 acre. And there are other policies that tie in servicing and hydrogeological requirements as well. They all work together to do that. And then for maximum, there isn't a size threshold per se, but there are a number of policies that clarify what kinds of other issues can be factored in to allow for lots to be larger than that 1 acre. So we reviewed over and undersized lots, but really focused on the undersized lots because those create technical concerns that are related to public health and environmental concerns. What I can say about oversized lots is I used to do severances quite a lot earlier at my time in the county, and we definitely saw them. But I think that the policies are good and clear and help us use our discretion to allow them to be larger. In terms of undersized lots, Jameson and RGIS staff were able to pull out examples of those types of severances that have already happened in the township over the past 5 to 10 years. Erin has also had some as well. And so, in terms of the undersized lots, there have been about 5 over the last 5 years in the secondary ag area. And, there's kind of a sliding scale of the type of conditions that the township has typically secured for these applications, and it's depended on the deficiency. So, you know, there were a couple that were 0.9 of an acre, and the chief building official was able to use their discretion and look at the building envelope and other matters, and they were satisfied. Some of the ones that were a bit smaller, you know, looking for tertiary treatment, pre-development plan, which would show the layout of all of the things that would be needed. And also where warranted a hydrogeological assessment. We did seek feedback from your chief building official, and he was quite helpful in laying out the approach that they've taken, and quite comfortable that he and his staff are able to deal with reviewing and clearing those conditions of approval. So, and last but not least, zoning compliance is also a requirement, and there is a 1 acre lot minimum currently. So there would also be some checks and balances through a minor variance process as well. But it looks that the policies are working, the conditions are appropriate. And we think that they're reasonable and provide the flexibility needed for site-specific circumstances. So we're not really suggesting any changes at this point. I think that they are working well, but if you have any other feedback for us or questions, we can do that either now or let Jameson go through.
Yeah, let's let James go. Okay.
Jean,
Yes, sorry.
what?
Yes, I could pull it out on my phone, but.
Yeah.
So thank you. Happy to be here and reporting back on Area D, and as the title slide shows, whether Area D should be included in Aberfoyle, the Aberfoyle expansion study area. So again, as Sarah had noted on, we were here at council in June with a preliminary direction around the limits of the expansion study area that we would be pursuing through our technical work. And at that point, Area D was excluded based on a preliminary view of constraints in that area. And so at that meeting, council had provided direction for us to proceed with the Aberfoyle boundary expansion project, and include a further review of the feasibility of Area D. So on the next slide, there is just what was previously provided for council's consideration. And as you can see, the boundary had excluded Area D. And this map provides some of the constraints that are mapped. So since that meeting, planning staff have begun to undertake a number of technical assessments, including agricultural impact analysis, aggregate impact assessment, and a planning justification report, which will serve as the foundation for delineating the final urban boundary of Aberfoyle, the conclusions of those reports. So again, just another graphic of Area D and the focus areas that could potentially accommodate some higher level of development. Just as a blow up to show it. So through some of the technical work that's begun, we've particularly the aggregate impact assessment, we've begun to kind of take that
advanced look at Area D. It's still preliminary. We're still working through it. We're not, haven't finalized those reports or, and their recommendations, but based on our preliminary findings through the aggregate impact assessment, we're confirming what we had preliminarily thought was that there is resource in the area. There are a number of constraints that are beginning to become apparent to extraction in that area. And some of the work that we're doing will kind of begin to highlight what that looks like from a constraint perspective. But it appears that feasibility in that area is low. And so, again, we will be working through the finalizing those assessments and firming up conclusions for not just Area D, but for the broader area. But we've begun to take that more detailed review of Area D through those technical assessments. So based on our preliminary analysis at this point, we're suggesting that it would be premature to remove Area D from consideration. So we would be prepared to include Area D moving forward in the balance of that technical work and carry out the necessary reviews inclusive of Area D. And then again, at the final conclusion of those reports, let the work dictate what is a final boundary that would be incorporated into the OPA. So here on the next slide, we have a final study area, which again is inclusive of Area D. And again, that generally aligned with what the township had originally had identified. And then just another aerial photo of the finalized study area for Aberfoyle. So just to conclude, do you want to do our?
Sure. Yeah, thanks. So we'll proceed with, as we said before, with draft policies this fall. And we're very committed to meeting that time frame. And I think that concludes our presentation. We'll continue subject to your support, including Area D, and continue to complete our work.
Thank you. Great, Councilor Hurst.
Yeah, so thanks. Yeah, I think that the only question I had was just the timelines leading up to this
Oh, sure.
being finalized or the hurdle, the upcoming hurdles or timelines. Can you maybe just speak to that?
Sure, I'll try. So, not all of it is in our control, but our hope is to bring forward the draft OPA in September. And that would go to planning committee and seeking endorsement for it to go into circulation. Then we have that 90-day provincial review period. So that takes us through to the end of the year. But we would be using that time to review the agency comments that would be coming forward. You'll have another opportunity to comment on it. I'll probably continue coordinating with Courtney just to chat a little bit about managing the input from Puslinch too, because we have Puslinch by Design going in as part of that OPA, and then the Aberfoyle work. So I'd like to think about that a little bit more, because it will be a countywide OPA, and it's easy to get a bit lost in that too. So we'll see if we can kind of cover off both things. Yeah, so then we would be taking it to public meetings in early in the new year. And then it would have to go back for a recommendation report after that. And much like what Mary Lou's done, we would need to take all of the input that we receive and review the OPA and decide whether there might be tweaks needed here and there. And then ultimately, it would go forward to council. And we would typically be seeking a resolution of support from Puslinch Council, as we did with Center Wellington, and I think certainly we have a good indication of we're in great shape with Puslinch by Design, because we know kind of where you landed on that. We know the study area that's preferred. If if any changes happen to that, we know that we will have to come back and explain that to you. So, that's an important part of it as well. And then it would go on to county council after the recommendation report. So,
That's helpful, just knowing
Yeah.
the process that you're on. I'll maybe look into the mirrors, into the area piece, but yes, I guess I would anticipate seeing something September 25 and then
Yep.
a bit more into
In the
early
new year.
26.
You bet.
Thank
We do have an email distribution list. Now, I mean, I can keep Courtney in the loop, but if you ever want to subscribe to that, you can get continual updates if you're interested. Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Goda?
I don't have any questions.
Schools?
I don't have any questions. Thanks for responding so quickly. It's really assuring that it's gonna, things moving really fast. It's great.
Thank you.
Councilor Bailey?
Yeah, I just have a question. I'm wondering if you can talk me through, I've never done a severance before.
Okay.
And I know, well, there could be people listening now that this has piqued some interest that there could be more severances in the township. What is the process for applying for a severance? And then at what point, if someone was wanting a smaller lot size, how does that factor in? Who kind of drives that conversation?
So, through you, the smaller lot size is something that I would recommend that it be discussed with the building official here at the township to determine what kind of threshold, but even if somebody didn't do a pre-consultation or inquiry, that would be flagged through the review of the application, and it could possibly slow the application down if it had to be deferred pending additional, technical work. And again, it depends how small. And like I said, you've averaged one per year over the last 5 years. There were two in the preceding, approximately, the preceding 5 years. People tend to like to have a good amount of land when they are choosing to move to the rural area, but we might see an uptick in them, and I think you're in good shape for that. And then the other question was,
the process.
yeah, the resetting of the date.
Oh.
So at this point in time, we're adding people to our email list that have been inquiring and don't qualify for a severance under the date. But until that new policy is in the official plan, we wouldn't be wanting to do pre-consultations or any detailed work on that. That would be how we would want to proceed with that.
Right.
Otherwise, it would create a big challenge for the committee, and applications are considered under the policies of the day when they apply. So, yeah, it wouldn't meet the policy if they applied early.
And that's just communicated verbally if someone were to
Yeah.
want to apply now.
I'm just gonna ask some clarification. If they haven't had a severance post 2005, they could have a pre-consultation and they could apply. And it would only be somebody that has a severance post 2005. They could also submit an application, but the answer they're gonna get back is you're not eligible because you've had a severance post 2005, and
Yep.
so that'll be problematic. But so they just,
Yep.
the timing isn't there if you've had your severance and you're hoping to get a second one post 2005. Just need to wait for this process to.
Gotta wait a little bit longer.
Yes. Be sure it makes sense.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I believe I was the driver on the lot size thing. It's just conflicting land use. You know, you start with a big lot, then all of a sudden it sells one or two times, and so, but I'm comfortable with your response. And it can always be amended at the land division after if they're flagging it, so there are opportunities. I'm not buying into. I live on an 82 by 130, and I have a septic and I have a well, and it all works. And that's, I think the math works out as just under a quarter acre. And I know that was permitted in the rules of the day back in 2009. So the hydro G worked then and the septic. So that's where I was framing my thoughts, is that, well, if it can work in the hamlet of Morriston, it should be able to work out in the rural too. But I'm fine with a half acre. But in the report, it states something about class 4 septics. and I don't know what those are.
Okay,
And then I got down the rabbit hole of, you know, is that meaning tertiary? And if we're getting growth, should we be considering a requirement of tertiary septic systems for rural growth going forward?
that's a good question, and, I could have been more clear in the presentation. That's a standard system. So what the building official would do is if, say, for example, a 0.9 of an acre versus a half an acre or less. They want to make sure that if somebody's proposing a standard system, they would want to make sure it could support that under the building code. But if there isn't enough land, or it's a smaller lot, then tertiary would be the next thing that would be looked at, and possibly a hydrogeological assessment or
Okay, so for me,
Yeah.
aside from the smaller lot component, let's just take that part of the equation. Since the technology is out there for tertiary treatment systems, and at the end of the day, it's cleaner effluent going into the ground. I'd like some consideration to just require that across the board. Now, I recognize that there's probably, or there will be additional costs to the homeowners, but for me, it's in the interest of having cleaner effluent that is going to percolate into the ground, regardless of lot size, because the technologies have improved. Yeah,
I'm writing this down.
no problem.
And that would be something that we can look into more over the summer. And then if it looks like something that we can achieve through policy, then that could be included in the draft OPA.
And I apologize if it's in here, but we've heard talk of multiple delegations, both multi-penetrating wells. I know when I first came on first turn, our hydrogeologist, very much an advocate for encasing the well top to bottom. And it's similar in my mind in the sense that it may not necessarily be mandated, but is it just good practice? So that's where I'm going with the septic. It may not be mandated, but it could be good practice. So also the wells, requiring them to be encased through the different aquifers as a requirement for the rural growth.
Right, so that's something that we can take away, and it could end up as, you know, an encouragement versus a requirement, or that those are the sorts of things that we would need to consider.
I would prefer the requirement
Yep.
part, but take it away.
Thought so, yeah. Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, I look forward to the conversations.
Yeah.
This is the time,
Yeah.
right? This is the time. So
Can I just ask, what would be the hurdle in just saying requirement of these, of kind of upping the standard?
I think, I mean, I'm going to need to educate myself more about the rules around them. But also considering the implications countywide as well, and whether it would just be a Puslynch thing, or whether it would be something that would apply elsewhere.
It could just be a Puslynch thing, though, that is an option.
Yeah, I think, yep, I mean, we have sections for each municipality so that you can, you know, have your own policies too, so, yeah,
Andrew has his hand up in the form, so
Oh.
you want to chime in?
that's helpful.
Mhm. Go ahead, Andrew.
All right, I'm trying to turn on my video. Okay, there it is.
We can hear you.
For you, Mr. Mayor, just on the septics, on making them a higher level, the tertiary treatment, a requirement. We can't have bylaws or anything that's gonna ask for something above and beyond what the code asks for, so I would maybe want you to steer it towards the encouragement side rather than the requirement. Certainly for these
So-
side lot, the lots that we see, most can hold a class 4 system and a standard system, but if you get to the, yes, on the smaller side of the lot and poor soils, you may need a tertiary system at that point. And maybe as a
So,
result of, sorry, go ahead.
So you're saying the code, are you talking building code, or are you talking some sort of, is it MECP legislation? Which legislation
No.
is?
Yeah, so the building code is, you can't, like, we can't pass any bylaws as a township that would supersede the building code. So ask for more than the building code asks for. And the base
So the
level,
house. Okay, so the building code states if the lot's undersized, that it requires a tertiary, or what's the workaround
No.
for that?
no, it wouldn't state that a tertiary system. It's just the natural design when you're developing a lot, you'd try to do a class 4 system because they're simpler, there's less maintenance involved. When you get into tertiary, there's a maintenance agreement involved, and that you're usually trying to get a smaller footprint.
That's not what I asked. What I was asking was, if the building code says traditional septic, and then we're not allowed to put in bylaws that require more, but then if the lot gets smaller, is it the Hydro G report that then can supersede building code?
Well, the Hydro G might trigger, what we see in those ones is often they'll ask for nitrate removal, which the building code doesn't get into. And it's only the tertiary systems that are able to achieve that level. So if as a result of the Hydro G that you need to meet these standards, in that case, you can ask for it. But a blanket requirement saying all have to be tertiary systems, I would discourage that.
Yeah, I'd still like staff to investigate it, and if it requires, I'm gonna go to Councilor Goyette, she has a question, but if it requires advocacy to MMAH, I don't see how you wouldn't support that we wanna have cleaner effluent to protect groundwater, and I would even be willing to risk it to put it in the policy and have it challenged, but anyways, that's where I'm at. Councilor Goyette?
I guess what I would wanna ask question is it actually cleaner effluent, or is it just the same quality of effluent in a smaller footprint? Because I think maybe we're asking for a requirement without fully understanding how the systems operate. And in implementing that, we would also be putting on substantial additional costs onto homeowners, which is counterintuitive. I understand clean water is absolute priority, but so is housing. So I think there's a balance, and just saying we need this because it's better without fully understanding is
for sure.
maybe not the right approach either. So.
Yeah, my understanding is the effluent, the nitrate levels, I forget which one it is, it's way lower with the anaerobic systems and they digest it more, but. Yes, I'm not interested in doing it just to say, oh, it's better. Yeah, the effluent is significantly better, it's only the marginal improvement, well, then maybe it's not, but, we'll leave that with you.
Sorry, I just want to note that we do have a limited amount of time to bring forward the OPA, and so if it becomes highly technical and we need to really dig in deeper, we have a second phase of the PPS consistency amendment, so we can pick it up on our next OPA, so.
Not
Just
interested in delaying this past the
Yeah,
timelines you.
okay, that's good to know.
indicated,
Yep,
but.
this is an important issue and, yeah.
The question for Andrew, the issue of penetrating layers, having it well cased. Is that also building code required, or is that something that's germane to a bylaw?
No, the building code doesn't regulate the wells. That'd be the ministry. The only thing that speaks to in the building code about wells is really the distance from the septic to the well.
This way, Fox,
Oh, sure.
Bertie?
Yes, thank you. Through Mr. Chair, it's a good question about the multi-penetrating aquifers. We're working with Stan and Kyle Davis from Source Water Protection to see if there is a tool that we can use to require that, encourage, whatever that language ends up being for developments across the township. So we're looking at, can we introduce that through our design standards but likely not through a bylaw is what I'm hearing at this time, but we are looking to incorporate it into one of our policy documents so that we can flag it at the time of development.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Where were we? Did I inject or was it my turn?
Your turn.
Was it my turn? I think it's important we keep D in. Also, we have those seasonal, we have one seasonal community there. So if there's an opportunity for them to go year round, I've heard rumors that there's people that already reside there year round, which may not be permitted. And if that seasonal community is included in the urban boundary, that may offer opportunities for expansion and then transition to traditional housing. That's the right term. Anyhow, so
Sorry, if I could just respond to that, so Mill Creek is, I believe, what you're referring to.
try
And,
not to name.
oh, I'm sorry. The policies allow for year round
Oh, it does?
now,
Oh, it does.
so it might be the zoning that puts that restriction in, but you're quite right. I think that it would allow for those, for that potential.
So I just didn't want some of the other overlays to wipe out all of the. So I'm very much supportive of a much cleaner delineated square box per se versus the zigzag lines, they become problematic. But at the end of the day, if you run into, hurdles with D, then I'm also supportive of being creative with that line if we have to be. I prefer it all in, it's just cleaner, simpler, but yeah, because that way it encapsulates those two communities down there. And so,
Thank you for that.
other than that, it's good work and we're gonna be busy for the next little while.
Yeah,
And so
it's good.
Yeah, it's good work. Very appreciative. So those are my comments. I don't know if I hit the bar that you put me on the spot, Councillor Hurst, that the mayor's gonna speak to D, but that's all I had.
I thought that's where you're going. So
Okay.
that's good.
Wasn't ready for that, right? Okay, so do we have a recommendation?
Correspondence item 7.2, presentation by Sarah Wilhelm, Manager of Planning, and Jameson Hurd, Senior Policy Planner for the County of Vaughan, regarding follow-up phase 3, the Coastal residential growth we received for information. And whereas council has previously requested policy changes regarding residential growth, such as the expansion of the boundaries of Aberfoyle and changing the rural residential severance date of March 1st, 2005, that council supports the final Aberfoyle expansion study area boundary, including area D, as set out in the presentation as the basis for continuing the technical work and to reset the rural residential severance date to May 1, 2025.
Good mover, Councillor Hurst, Councillor Spos, any comments? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Are we going both? We have ERO. Right, who's doing that one?
I didn't. So through you, Mr. Chair, there's been ERO posting on here for council's consideration with respect to proposed changes to provide flexibility for water taking activities. It's proposed amendment relating to permits to take water. So staff are recommending that based on the timeline to provide comments, that staff be directed to work with the township's hydrogeologist and source water protection to provide comments on behalf of the township. And staff were in the state of some comments that were provided by Councillor Boyda that she may wish to speak to, that we can incorporate as well.
Councillor, I'll just go right to Councillor Goyder.
Go for it.
Yeah, sure. I agree with the recommendation. I just had some comments to include that weren't necessarily technical comments, just more overarching comments. That's maybe put them on the screen, but I guess that's not. I'll just speak to them. The first was just that I thought that community members and municipalities should have an opportunity for engagement and to be able to provide comments when things change. I'm just saying, like, if a permit is simply transferred from one owner to the next without any public consultation, it can create a perception of non-transparency in the community. The second comment I had was just that making new owners apply for their own permit ensures that they understand the rules and the responsibilities and the monitoring requirements. And sets clear expectations, especially if there's times of drought or low water advisories. And then the third point, was just that transferring the permit rather than requiring a new permit application does not allow consideration of key factors such as the company's track record on environmental protection, operational compliance history, or the company's role in terms of its contribution to the community. So they were just sort of some high level.
Good. Any further questions or comments from us? Or go ahead. Comments of your own, councillors?
Well said. Yeah, I'd say I echo a lot of those. I think from my standpoint, just any loosening of environmental restrictions around water taking permits causes concern, especially in a community that's very much dependent on wells. I think one thing that I think I'd be sensitive that if a business is sold, I think there's opportunities for interim permitting or provisional permitting, so that you don't have the stop-start business operations, but I don't like just the full transition. To Councillor Goyda's comments around different businesses, different corporate structure, different track records, like there's just a lot of red flags there, so I think Stan's comments in the email that was circulated previously, I think were quite robust, so I just encourage staff to take those into consideration and submit.
So I support Councilor Goyda's comments, just a question of do we need to have a motion to incorporate hers as comments, or we take them as advice for input into our final response?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have included in the resolution that we include comments provided by council in order to meet the deadline, so I can accept this.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey?
Yeah, I have nothing to add, but to Councillor Hurst's point, like anything to do with water taking, especially within this township, needs to be taken seriously and yeah, the comments to mitigate any risk or any further risk should be highlighted.
So I've penned a couple of notes here. First, I'd like staff to make consideration of whether or not this can be retroactive. So that's clear, and specifically to our situation, see about that should just be going forward. This last bullet that they have in the ERO says the proposed taking of water must be for the same purpose as as authorized when previously issued permit to take water. And I also penned the current use is still ongoing. What I don't want to see is that they say the previously use was water bottling. However, all the equipment has been removed from the Blue Triton site. So I have concerns of why you need to own a well for water bottling if you're not actually bottling water. So to me, it's almost similar to zoning or legal non-conforming, where the use has continued. If there's a break, then this is not applicable. So they have to have the capacity to, or are still doing the use, not just intend to. Because now you're going to have a well and an asset with very tangible value and not actually be doing it. What does that lead to? Speculation, people buying wells, buying water, like more in that sense. Also, and this came up at the county, and I had a lot of challenges with this. We had a severance for the farmhouse off the nested property, and a monitoring well or wells, I don't know the details, but it just said monitoring wells, I think plural, was being severed off of the nested properties and then potentially sold, could be sold, because now it's a separate deeded property. So I wrote that monitoring wells remain, whether it be accessible or part of the initial property, and I had a lot of challenges because so I believe that property was given provisional consent, is that what they call as well as the monitoring stayed in place, but there's a real possibility that some of those wells are now going to be on a separate property. And that's problematic to me. I feel that would be problematic for everybody around this table. So some wording around whether it be it's an easement, I don't know, accessible. You can't just sever it because, so that's what we encountered at the county level there. Those are my few comments. So I have many cans of worms. Questions for me?
Good comment.
So you're in consideration. Okay, any further? Do you have recommendation?
That corresponds item 7.3 ERO 025-0730 proposed changes to provide flexibility for water taking activities be received for information, and that council directs staff to provide the ERO posting to the township's hydrogeologist for comment, and that council directs staff to work with source water protection and the township's hydrogeologist to submit comments on behalf of the township, including the comments provided by council in order to meet the commenting deadline.
Can I move it, please? Suppose, Councilor Harrison, in favor? It's carried. I believe we're going into closed session now.
That council shall go into closed session under section 239 of the municipal act for the purpose of item 8.1, confidential report regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And that's for a human resource matter.
Please, Councilor Goyda.
Yes.
Suppose, in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. There you go.
That council moves into open session at 12:29 PM.
Need a mover, please? Councilor Bailey, Councilor Spillis, all in favor? It's carried.
That council receives the confidential report regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, for a human resource matter, and the staff proceed as directed.
Need a mover, please? Councilor Goyda, Councilor
Yeah.
Spillis, all in favor? It's carried. Regulatory bylaw?
That the following bylaw be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council, bylaw 2025-068, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council for the corporation of the township of Pleasant at its meeting held on the 23rd day of July 2025.
Mover, please. Councilor Hurst, Councilor Bailey, all in favor? And adjournment.
That council hereby adjourns at 12:29 PM.
Councilor Goyda?
Yep.
Councilor Spillis, all in favor? Carried.